The rise and fall of Huffy and the American bicycle industry. Did any of you have a Huffy bike back when you were a kid? I still remember when I got my 18-speed Huffy bike for Christmas back in the day. It was such a huge upgrade from my fixed gear kids bike, and it was so exciting changing gears for the first time riding up a hill. Life-changing, I must say. I grew up in the South and always rode my Huffy bike everywhere to visit friends and just have fun. The cool kids had BMX bikes, but I guess that's a story for another time. If any of you guys have followed, the entire bicycle manufacturing industry in America has changed dramatically over the past few decades and has literally been wiped out by none other than China. In this video, I'll deep dive into the story of one of the great American two-wheeler brands and provide you with a company insight on the right and wrong that happened with this brand and how the American bicycle industry got ravaged by the Chinese. But before we begin, if you guys enjoy videos like this, please click the like button, subscribe button, and that notification bell to know when new videos come out each week. So thanks for doing that, and now let's get going on the video. How it all began at Huffy. The famous Huffy Corporation started over 130 years ago in 1887. When founder George Huffman bought the Davis Screw Machine Company in Watertown, New York. The company was originally known as the Huffman Corporation, after the founder himself. After struggling in the sewing machine business, the company started manufacturing bikes in 1892 under the brand Dayton, and this was a small success. Later on, George's son Horace Huffman joined the business as well. Things were going well with the company delving into other businesses, but the big breakthrough actually came during the Great Depression in the 1930s. Americans were cutting back on purchases of cars and gasoline consumption, and bikes became a hugely popular mode of transportation. In fact, Huffy couldn't keep up with the demand. Sales were booming, and by 1940, they hit the $1.5 million milestone. Continuous improvement and education always pay off. In the 1940s, the company shifted its production focus to government contracts with the outbreak of World War II, and sales increased to $3 million in 1942. Following the war, Huffman was still trying to figure out what to do when he attended a seminar on simplifying work. He then taught the techniques to his suppliers and managers. With this, the company was able to increase production, and within 2 years, sales exceeded $10 million. Wow! In the 1950s, the company continued to grow, especially with the launch of the very successful Huffy convertible bike, which was the world's first children's bike with rear training wheels. The product was a complete hit, and by the 1960s, Huffy was the third largest bike manufacturer in America. Times were good, and in 1968, Huffy had an IPO and went public on the American Stock Exchange, with sales reaching $42 million the following year. Favorable trend with a smashing success. In the 1960s and 1970s, Huffy rode the bicycle trend as the overall market was growing. This was the era when more and more adults were moving towards bicycles for exercise to stay healthy, and also as a way to reduce spending on gasoline. Although foreign competition was entering the market by the 1970s, the federal government stepped in by setting safety standards, and a cheaper dollar slowed down the competition. Huffy also took this time to introduce their new product, named the Thunder Trail. Back then, the Thunder Trail was Huffy's response to focus back on the kids' market. They made the bicycle cool and flashy, with bright colors and decals to look like a motorcycle. They also actively marketed the product during commercials on kids' TV shows. It worked. The Thunder Trail made Huffy the #1 manufacturer of bicycles in the United States in 1977. And sales were $130 million in that year. Diversification and Investment. In 1980, Huffy reported the 5th straight year of record earnings, but things were rapidly changing with rapidly increasing production costs. In return, the company massively cut expenses and invested over $30 million in robotics, production equipment, and computers at their manufacturing plants to stay relevant in the industry. In addition, as bicycle sales accounted for 90% of revenue, the company moved towards diversification. The company participated in some M&A transactions and then moved into baby products and gardening and lawn tools. This diversification was considered a successful move, as by the early 1990s, almost half of all revenue were coming from non-bicycle related sales. The Tsunami. Huffy made a few business mistakes in the 1990s. These errors included 1. Underpricing its garden and lawn tools, which led to losses. 2. Catching the huge mountain bike craze late. And 3. Launching the Huffy True Temper Cross Trainer, which was considered a failure. However, all of these mistakes were drops in the bucket compared to the tsunami impact of Asian competitors that had come to the market. Competitors from Asia. Not a lot of information is published on the fall of the American bicycle industry. What started as a small wave soon turned into a tsunami by the late 1980s that rocked the entire bicycle market. It started in the 1980s with industry leader Schwinn Bikes moving their manufacturing to China. The cost advantages, especially back then, were huge, with labor costs in China that were over 90% cheaper than in America. Huffy and Trek soon followed suit, and then everyone else did as well. This had a huge impact on the manufacturing in the US. The National Bicycle Dealers Association estimated that by 2015, only 2.5% of all bikes sold in the US were made in America. To give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, according to the International Bike Organization, America was manufacturing nearly 6 million bikes in 1990, and by 2015, this had fallen to only around 200,000 bikes. That is a drop of over 95%. It's been said by industry experts that Asian competitors were dropping prices of Chinese imported bikes by 30% each year over many consecutive years in the 1990s. What a terrible time that must have been for Huffy. Walmart, friend or foe? To add to the problem, independent bicycle chains, as distribution channels, were dropping like flies. By the mid-1990s, big box retailers like Walmart had taken over 75% of bike sales, and they were putting tremendous pressure on bicycle manufacturers like Huffy. As Walmart would often order 1 million bikes at a time, Huffy had no choice and leverage if they wanted to continue being a major player in the market. Walmart continued to push down prices tremendously as they were being approached by Chinese bicycle manufacturers. At first, Huffy was able to negotiate a pay cut for its union workforce in the United States, but further price cuts from Walmart then resulted in the closure of all U.S. manufacturing plants by the end of 1998. Even after subcontracting manufacturing to China, where workers earned 25 to 40 cents an hour, Huffy was not able to compete with local Chinese manufacturers, many of which received state funding or didn't have to follow international rules and requirements. By 2004, Huffy declared bankruptcy after suffering a $7 million loss in 2003, and in 2005 emerged from bankruptcy now owned by Chinese suppliers and a firm linked to the Chinese government. Although the company is still alive to this day, in 2021, times have definitely changed as children don't play outside as much as previous generations, and the Chinese had already taken over the entire bicycle market in the United States. Conclusion. And that brings us to today. Huffy's story is a tough one. Even though the company made heavy investments in automation and efficiency and also successfully diversified its revenue, Huffy still failed and wasn't able to compete with Chinese manufacturers. Nowadays, although made in the USA bicycle manufacturers like Detroit Bikes in Michigan, Camino in Oregon, or Lifespeed in Tennessee still manufacture in the United States, it's just on a completely different scale and product offering than previous decades. The bikes made in the United States today are typically much more expensive in price, from $3,000 to $10,000 per bike, and don't have mass market affordability. Although the bicycle industry might not be as relevant anymore as it once was, the bigger question today is, should we as consumers do more to protect American manufacturing and American industries? Recent new small 10 to 20% tariffs introduced by Trump in the past couple of years have done little but move more manufacturing from China to other low-cost countries like Cambodia, and not to the United States. Some might say only traditional industries and manufacturing jobs are being outsourced, but that is simply not true. Even today, Intel is considering outsourcing its high-tech chip production to Asia because it can't keep up with the manufacturing and advanced global supply chain. Do you think there's anything Huffy could have done differently to prevent their current situation? If you were the CEO in charge of Huffy today, what would you do now? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So with that said, thank you for watching my video. There was a significant amount of research and production that went into making this video possible, so if you wouldn't mind giving the video a like or sharing it with your friends, it would really help out a lot. Be sure to check out some of my other videos, like the Rise and Fall and Rise Again of Playboy, or the Rise and Fall of Cirque du Soleil. Thank you again for watching, and stay tuned for another episode of Company Insight next week.